I've got no qualms in saying that this is the most controversial selection in British and Irish Lions history.
Welcome back to Code Sports. I'm Julian Linden and I'm here with Jamie Pandaram, and we're talking about the Lions, and particularly we're talking about the 2013 series, Jamie, which you were there, covered it from woe to go. Fascinating series, could have gone either way, kind of turned on a dime really, didn't it?
So Robbie Deans, who'd been under pressure anyway coming into the series as coach, decided to go with really untested James O'Connor at 10, and that caused a lot of waves. What he then decided to do was play Christian Leali'ifano at 12. And as we've now learnt from some interviews we've done for this series, all of the Wallabies' attack was going to flow through the 12 channel. All of their ball playing was going to go through Leali'ifano. In the 56th second of the game, he gets knocked out. So all of a sudden, their plans are just in disarray. They have to bring Pat McCabe on, who is a ball running 12. So now they've got to adjust everything on the run, so nothing's coming off the 12. McCabe goes down, Berrick Barnes gets injured. By the end of the game, they've got Michael Hooper playing in the centres. So just, disastrous outcome. And yet still, they were in it, and they could have won the game, should have won the game. The infamous moment, Jules. Kurtley Beale has a kick to win the game in the last play of the match, and he slips.
Beale, he slipped. It's not there. The Lions have it. It is not a Mornay Stain moment.
Just one of those things that, will live on in infamy, and Beale will probably, replay it over and over again in his head. Obviously, then out of that game was the huge controversy around the captain, James Horwill, and whether he deliberately stood on the hand of Alan Wynne-Jones. Now, obviously, the British were convinced that, yes, it was a deliberate act and he should be cited. He wasn't. And then the IRB came in over the top and said, yes, we want to review this, he should be cited. And there was a controversy unfolding there where Horwill got off and the press pack was outraged. But we go to Melbourne, we go to the second test, and the Wallabies really turned it around. Incredible performance. Adam Ashley Cooper scores a try, the only try of the game, and the Wallabies somehow level that series. Now, in a twist of fortune for that second game, it was Lee Halfpenny, the Lions kicker, who had a chance to win the game at the end, and his kick fell just short. So Beale misses a match-winning kick in the first test, Halfpenny misses the second test. So we come to Sydney for the decider, and this is where the drama starts, because having already been cleared by the ARB, Horwill is cited again. Now this is unprecedented. So, and this has really come on with pressure from the British media and pundits and commentators saying, oh, this was a deliberate act, he should be gone. So they've gone on again. I remember just sitting in the hotel in the CBD in Sydney, on a Monday night, just thinking, surely they're not going to cite him again and not find him guilty. And the Wallabies in the background are planning for contingencies and who they might bring into the squad. And late, then he got off again. Just inexplicably got off again. So very good lawyer, but the IRB's citing practices are called into question. And by this stage, having come off a loss, the Lions are fuming. So on top of that, they've had their captain, Sam Warburton, ruled out of the game. So all of the momentum now is with the Wallabies heading into Sydney, and everyone's feeling very confident. So what did emerge was the controversial late night incident with James O'Connor and Kurtley Beale. So this actually happened after the second test in Melbourne, and it was a dry tour, so there was the Wallabies had agreed there was no drinking going on, and O'Connor and Beale were playing for the Melbourne Rebels at that time, and between the Melbourne game and the Sydney game, the Rebels were playing the Lions in a tour game. And so Beale and O'Connor decided that they would go and support their Rebels teammates, which they did, watched the game, and then went out with them afterwards. So here's where things get interesting. They've decided to kick on, right? And O'Connor and Beale say they did it because they wanted to be around their teammates, but also didn't want to disturb their teammates back in the hotel getting home at 1 or 2 in the morning. They ended up staying out till 3 in the morning, and a punter with his son is at Hungry Jack's at the same time as these two Wallabies superstars and says, "Oh, would you have a photo with my son? Would you not?" So take a photo, 3 a.m. He posted on Facebook, and as we know with social media, the dangers of social media, Jules, right? They didn't have to worry about this back in '89. He's posted the photo, and the guy's ex-girlfriend's brother happens to be a journo, and he's gone,
of course.
Why are these blokes out at 3 a.m. in a Hungry Jack's? And he's made some inquiries, and then once they've been walloped 41-16 in that third test, the story emerges that these two have been out. Everyone assumes that they were, on the drink. They deny that they were drinking that night. So they say that they actually weren't drinking, they were on the waters, but they were with their mates, their Rebels teammates, and they decided to go grab a feed at Hungry Jack's, be nice enough to take a photo with a fan, and nevertheless, bad look, awful look, and it almost created this narrative that Robbie Deans had sort of didn't have control of the dressing room, didn't have control of the players, and that sort of reinforced Rugby Australia's position that they had to sack him, they had to make a change.
Selections are critical. You're getting towards the end of a series. You've got an incredible disposal of players that you can pick and choose from. But every time you pick someone for the Lions, it's almost got a knock-on effect back in their home country. If you pick an Englishman over a Scotsman, or you pick a Welshman over an Irishman. Well, Warren Gatland was the coach of theirs, a New Zealander, but he's coaching the Welsh team. What did he choose for his moment of truth in the deciding third test?
I've got no qualms in saying that this is the most controversial selection in British and Irish Lions history. There has never been a reaction to the non-selection of Brian O'Driscoll to any other player in the history of a Lions series. So the context is they've just come off a loss, and Warburton is injured, their captain. The feeling is that O'Driscoll, who's captained Ireland for many years, is their most experienced player, just assumes the captaincy, leads the Lions out to Sydney. And Warren Gatland, who was coaching Wales at the time, decided to drop O'Driscoll from the squad altogether, bring in Jamie Roberts, put 10 Wales players into his squad for that final game. It was mad.
First time any coach has ever had that decision with him in 15 years of rugby, so it's not easy for that to be the first time.
And the reaction from Ireland was furious. Now, you couldn't believe it. I mean, this was tantamount to not picking Jordan for the dream team. Like, that's how the Irish felt about this moment. So Robbie Deans had called up George Smith, who was in international retirement, to come and start at number 7 for the Wallabies and drop Michael Hooper to the bench. And that barely made a ripple because everyone just couldn't get over the O'Driscoll selection or non-selection. And, credit to Gatland. I mean, a bold move. He had identified a missing piece to the Lions, which was exposing the Wallabies backline through the middle. And Jamie Roberts had been his guy, had been his man. They'd been in the World Cup semi-finals in 2011. Like, at that time, Wales was flying. So he felt that different midfield combination, a Welsh combination, could have far more of an impact than what O'Driscoll could. So what unfolded in that third test, obviously, was, again, going back to game 1 in Brisbane, where you had these injuries. Well, George Smith was knocked out early in the game. And
last test, never played again.
Never played again, so that was like a disappointing way for him to end his career. And then it was still fairly close in half time. And even in the sort of first 15 minutes of that second half, the Wallabies were still in it. And the Lions just turned it on and ran away with the game. Just try after try. In the end, they won 41-16, which remains their biggest ever score in a Lions test match. And that was kind of the final nail in the coffin for Robbie Deans' Wallabies coaching tenure, because on the back of that result and then failing to win the World Cup in 2011, even though he had the Wallabies at number 2 in the world for much of his tenure, that was it. That was the final name.